Hello. My fiancée said her trip to Vegas was a girls-only getaway. But when I checked the photos she was tagged in, her ex was clearly in the background. So while she enjoyed the trip, I canceled the wedding, packed my things, and moved into my other house. She came back to an empty apartment and very angry parents. My name is Adam. I am 34, and I work as a commercial insurance underwriter in Phoenix. My job is mostly spreadsheets, client calls, and reading risk reports, so I am used to paying attention to details and noticing when things do not line up. My fiancée is Dana, 32. We had been together for a little over 3 years, engaged for 8 months, and living together in an apartment downtown. We were supposed to get married in 6 weeks, and most of the big expenses were already paid. Dana had been talking for months about doing one last girls' trip before the wedding. Vegas, 2 nights, maybe 3. Just her and her 2 closest friends from college. I did not care. I am not one of those guys who needs a full itinerary and hourly updates. She told me the hotel, said it was going to be spa, drinks, pool, and one stupid nightclub for nostalgia. Fine. What bothered me was not the trip itself. It was how weird she got in the week before she left. She started guarding her phone in that casual fake way people do when they want to seem normal while doing the exact opposite. Screen down on every surface, taking it into the bathroom, smiling at messages, and then acting irritated if I looked up. Not enough to accuse someone over, but enough to clock it. Then there was the ex. His name is Travis. As far as I knew, he was old history. They dated before me, ended badly according to her, and she always described him as immature, selfish, and beneath her, which honestly should have made me relax. Instead, it did the opposite, because I have learned that when someone spends years talking about how irrelevant a person is, that person usually is not irrelevant. 2 nights before her flight, I saw his name pop up on her lock screen while she was in the kitchen. It was only for a second, but I know what I saw. She came back, checked the phone, and her whole expression changed when she realized I had noticed it. Not guilty exactly. Annoyed. Like I had interrupted something. I asked why Travis was texting her this close to our wedding. She said I was being dramatic and that he was not texting her. He had just reacted to a story. Then she told me I was doing that controlling thing again, which was interesting because I had asked one question and had not raised my voice. That was the first moment I started quietly preparing for the possibility that this trip was not what she said it was. Dana left on a Friday morning flight. We had breakfast together before she called the ride to the airport. Nothing dramatic happened. No big fight. She acted completely normal, which almost made me feel stupid for noticing anything earlier in the week. She kissed me goodbye at the door, told me not to work all weekend, and joked that I would probably enjoy 2 quiet days without her reorganizing the apartment. That part was actually true. Dana liked control. Not in an aggressive way, more in a constant commentary kind of way. If I loaded the dishwasher wrong, she corrected it. If groceries were not arranged by category, she fixed them. Small stuff, but constant. Before she got into the car, she reminded me again that this was just a girls' trip. Her words. She said the 3 of them planned to mostly stay around the hotel. Spa during the day, drinks at night, maybe a show. She also said they were turning their phones off most of the time so they could disconnect and enjoy the trip properly. That sentence stuck with me. People who want to disconnect usually just disconnect. They do not pre-announce it like a policy update. Still, I told her to have fun and not worry about checking in with me. I meant that. If the trip was what she said it was, I had no issue. The first day went exactly how you would expect. I worked a half day, came home, ordered takeout, watched a game, and went to sleep early. She sent one photo in the afternoon of the hotel pool with a caption saying girls' weekend officially started. All 3 of them were in the picture. Nothing weird. Saturday morning, I woke up to 2 more photos in our chat. One was a brunch table. The other was a blurry nightclub shot from the night before. Again, nothing suspicious. The interesting part started Saturday afternoon. I was sitting on my couch scrolling through Instagram when I noticed Dana had been tagged in a photo by one of her friends from the trip. It was taken at the pool. Dana was in the foreground wearing sunglasses and holding a drink. Her friend was next to her laughing. It looked like a completely normal vacation photo. But in the background, sitting at a table behind them, was a guy wearing a black baseball cap turned backward. Even before I zoomed in, I already knew who it was. I zoomed in on the photo, and there was no doubt. It was Travis. Same build, same stupid backward cap he used to wear in old pictures Dana had shown me early in our relationship. He was sitting maybe 15 feet behind them at one of the pool tables with 2 other guys. Now, to be fair, Vegas is a big place and hotels are crowded. Two people being in the same pool area does not automatically mean they planned it. That is exactly what I told myself for about 30 seconds. Then I kept looking. The problem was not just that he was there. The problem was how comfortable the situation looked. He was not facing away from them like some random stranger. His chair was angled directly toward their table like someone who was part of the same group. Dana had not mentioned running into anyone. She had not texted anything like "guess who we randomly saw here." Nothing. If it had actually been a coincidence, most people would say something immediately just to get ahead of the obvious question. Instead, there was silence. So I did the boring thing my job has trained me to do. I looked at more information before jumping to a conclusion. I opened Travis's profile. He had posted a story about an hour earlier. Same hotel, same pool, different angle. And this time Dana was clearly visible sitting at the same table he was at. Not background, not accidental. Sitting with him. That was the moment everything clicked into place in a very calm way that honestly surprised me. No anger spike. No dramatic reaction. Just clarity. This was not a random run-in. If it had been, she would have told me. Dana loved controlling narratives, and she hated being caught in situations that could be misinterpreted. The only reason to say nothing was because it was not a coincidence. It was planned. And the thing that really made me stop caring about the wedding was realizing something else. She had not just lied about Travis being there. She had built the entire trip around the idea that I would never find out, which meant she thought I was either stupid or passive enough to ignore it. I closed the app, sat back on the couch, and started making a few very practical decisions about the next 6 weeks of my life. Once I saw Travis sitting at the same table as Dana, the whole situation became very simple. People imagine betrayal as some huge emotional explosion where you scream, confront someone, demand explanations. That is not how it felt for me. It felt more like closing a spreadsheet once the numbers stopped making sense. The wedding was 6 weeks away. Deposits were paid. My parents had flights booked. Dana had already started arguing with vendors about flower colors and chair layouts. But none of that mattered if the person you are about to marry is secretly meeting an ex on a trip that was specifically described as a girls-only getaway. I sat there for maybe 10 minutes and thought through the practical side. First question was easy. Was I going to confront her while she was still in Vegas? The answer was no. If someone is already lying and enjoying a weekend with their ex, the last thing I am going to do is provide live entertainment through angry texts. I was not interested in arguing with someone who was sitting at a pool bar pretending everything was normal. Second question was the wedding. That decision took about 30 seconds. You do not marry someone you cannot trust before the marriage even starts. So I opened my laptop and began canceling things. The venue coordinator was the first email. Short and direct. Wedding canceled due to personal circumstances. I understood the deposit was non-refundable. The caterer was next. Then the photographer. By the time I finished those messages, I already felt lighter than I had in weeks. After that, I called my parents. That was the only conversation where I had to explain anything. I told them exactly what I saw and exactly what I was doing. My dad was quiet for about 5 seconds and then said something very simple. Good. Handle it now instead of after the paperwork. My mom asked if I was sure. I told her yes. Then I did one more thing that made the whole situation very real. I started packing my things out of the apartment while Dana was still in Vegas enjoying her girls' trip. Packing was easier than I expected. The apartment technically belonged to both of us, but most of the furniture was hers. Dana cared a lot about aesthetics and had spent months picking out things that matched whatever style she was into at the time. I never fought her on it because I had somewhere else I could go if I ever needed space. That turned out to be useful. About 2 years ago, I bought a small house across town as a rental property. It had been empty for the last couple months while I was deciding whether to rent it again or renovate it. So when I started putting my clothes into boxes that afternoon, I already knew exactly where I was going. I focused only on things that were clearly mine. Clothes, my work setup, a few personal items, and some small furniture I had brought when we moved in together. I was not interested in fighting later over a coffee table or a lamp. By early evening, my car was full. Before leaving, I did one last quiet check through the apartment just to make sure I had not forgotten anything important. It felt strange walking through a place that had been our shared home while knowing the relationship was already finished and the other person had no idea yet. At around 7 that night, I locked the apartment door, put the key on the kitchen counter where she would see it when she came back, and left. Driving to the house felt strangely calm. No dramatic music moment. No anger building. Just the practical feeling that comes when a decision is already made and there is nothing left to debate. Once I got there, I carried everything inside and set up the basics. Bed, laptop, a couple boxes in the corner. Then I sat down and did one final thing before going to sleep. I sent a short message to Dana's parents explaining that the wedding had been canceled and that their daughter would probably want to talk to them when she returned from Vegas. Sending that message to her parents was not done out of spite. It was done for a very practical reason. Dana and I had already sent invitations. Family on both sides had flights booked, hotels reserved, and time taken off work. If I quietly disappeared and canceled everything without telling anyone, she would have been able to spin whatever version of the story she wanted. I was not interested in a public argument later about who ended the wedding or why. So the message I sent them was very direct and very calm. I explained that I had discovered Dana meeting her ex during what was supposed to be a girl's only trip to Las Vegas. Because of that, I had canceled the wedding and moved out of the apartment. I also told them that vendors had already been notified, so they would not continue making payments or plans. No insults, no emotional language, just facts. Her father responded about 20 minutes later. The message was short. He said he appreciated me telling them directly and that they would speak with Dana when she got home. That was it. I went to bed not really thinking about it anymore. Sunday was quiet. I spent most of the day setting up the house a little more. Groceries, cleaning, moving a few boxes around. Dana texted twice during the day with random vacation updates that I ignored. One was a picture of a slot machine. The other was a short video of her and her friends laughing at a restaurant table. Again, Travis was not visible, but by that point it did not matter. I already knew the truth. Her flight landed Sunday night. I did not hear anything until about 40 minutes after she got back to the apartment. Then my phone started ringing. Dana. I let it go to voicemail. 30 seconds later it rang again. Then again. After the fourth call a text finally came through. Where the hell are you and why is half your stuff gone? A few seconds later another message arrived. And why are my parents calling me asking why the wedding is canceled? Dana called 9 more times in the next 15 minutes. I did not answer any of them. Not because I was trying to punish her, but because I knew exactly how that conversation would go if it happened live. She would talk fast, interrupt constantly, and shift the conversation before anything actually got addressed. Text forces people to read what is written. So I finally replied. I kept it short. I told her I had seen the photos from the pool in Las Vegas, and that Travis was clearly sitting at the same table with her. I also told her I saw his story where she was sitting with him directly. Her response came almost instantly. She said I was being insane and paranoid. According to her, Travis just happened to be staying at the same hotel and ran into them by coincidence. She said Vegas hotels are huge and things like that happen all the time. The problem with that explanation was that it did not match what the pictures showed. So I sent one more message. I explained that if it had been a coincidence, she would have mentioned it the moment it happened. Instead, she said nothing, spent the entire weekend sitting with him, and continued pretending the trip was just a girl's getaway. Then I told her something else. I had already canceled the wedding. That message took about a full minute before she responded. When she finally did, the tone changed immediately. No more pretending nothing happened. She called me dramatic. She said I was embarrassing both of us. She said canceling the wedding over something this small proved I had serious trust issues. That was the moment I stopped the conversation. I sent one final message explaining that meeting her ex during a trip she specifically described as girls only was not small, and I had no interest in debating basic honesty with someone I was supposed to marry. Then I told her I had moved out and that the relationship was finished. After that, I blocked her number. Blocking Dana did not immediately stop the situation from escalating. About 10 minutes after I blocked her number, my phone started lighting up with calls from unknown numbers. At first I ignored them, assuming it was just her trying to reach me from someone else's phone. Then a voicemail came through. It was Dana. She sounded furious. She said blocking her was childish and that I needed to stop acting insane and come back to the apartment so we could talk like adults. According to her, I had completely blown a harmless situation out of proportion and embarrassed her in front of her parents. I deleted the voicemail without responding. Over the next hour, she tried several more numbers. I blocked each one as they appeared. Eventually, the calls stopped. What I did not expect was what happened next. Around 10 that night, my phone rang again. But this time it was a number I recognized. Dana's father. I answered because I assumed he just wanted to confirm everything that had happened. He did not waste time with small talk. The first thing he said was that Dana had just arrived at their house after leaving the apartment. Apparently, she went straight there once she realized I had moved out and that the wedding had actually been canceled. He also said she was extremely angry. Not sad. Not confused. Angry. According to him, she had spent the last 30 minutes complaining about how I had ruined her trip, humiliated her with her family, and overreacted to something she claimed was a harmless run-in with an old boyfriend. Then he said something that honestly surprised me. He told me he had asked her a very simple question. If Travis being there was really just a coincidence, why did she never mention it to me during the trip? And apparently Dana did not have an answer for that either. Her father and I spoke for maybe 5 minutes. He did most of the talking. I mostly confirmed details. I told him exactly what I had seen in the photos and on Travis's story, and I explained that I had already canceled the vendors and moved my things out of the apartment. He did not argue with any of it. In fact, he sounded more tired than anything else. At one point, he said something that stuck with me. He told me that Dana had always had a habit of thinking problems could be talked away if she pushed hard enough. According to him, she believed most conflicts were just misunderstandings that could be fixed by arguing long enough until the other person gave up. That approach might work in some relationships. It was never going to work in this one. Before we ended the call, he told me he was not going to pressure me to reconsider the wedding. He said if I had already reached a clear decision, dragging things out would only make the situation worse. Then he added something else. Apparently Dana had tried to explain the Vegas situation several different ways while arguing with her parents. First, she said Travis just happened to be at the same hotel. Then she said he ran into them once at the pool. Then she said they only talked for a few minutes. The problem was that her own friends had already posted multiple pictures from the same day, showing Travis sitting with their group for hours. Her father said the story kept changing every time someone asked a simple question. When we hung up, I realized something important. The reason Dana was so angry was not because I had misunderstood the situation. She was angry because for once she had no control over the outcome. The wedding was already canceled. I had already moved out, and there was nothing left for her to argue her way back into. The next few days were quieter than I expected. Once Dana realized I was not going to answer calls or unblock her, the attempts to reach me slowly stopped. A couple mutual friends sent messages asking what had happened, but I kept the explanation simple. The wedding was canceled and the relationship was over. Most people did not push past that. One thing that helped was the timing. Because I canceled the vendors quickly, the news spread before Dana could create some alternative version of events. My parents had already told a few relatives. Her parents had clearly spoken to their side of the family as well. By the middle of the week, most people understood that the wedding simply was not happening. Dana tried one more indirect attempt to reach me through a mutual friend about 4 days later. The message was basically an offer to talk and clear up the misunderstanding. That wording alone confirmed I had made the right decision. Nothing about the situation was complicated. If someone tells you a trip is girls only and then spends the weekend sitting at a pool table with their ex, that is not a misunderstanding. That is a choice. I never responded to the message. Over the next couple weeks, I finished moving the rest of my things from the apartment while Dana was at work. The lease had both of our names on it, but since she wanted to stay there, transferring it fully to her ended up being simple. After that, the contact stopped completely. Looking back now, the strangest part is how calm the entire process felt once I saw that first photo. People imagine breakups like this being loud and chaotic. For me, it felt more like solving a problem once the final piece of information shows up. Dana went to Las Vegas thinking she could control the story. Instead, she came home to an empty apartment, canceled wedding plans, and parents asking questions she could not answer. And honestly, that was enough closure for me. Bye-bye.